Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. We are getting up to the end of March. So this last week, the week of the 23rd, there are a few days of March in the following week, but the week of the 23rd of March is when we really start to move ahead with a great deal of momentum coming off the spring equinox and the new moon in Pisces that kicked off last week. The other thing that occurred, of course, is that Mercury is now direct. So we are in faster movement, more decisiveness, more voices coming forward. A lot of things that seem like there's been stasis and this kind of frozen quality with boom, 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 boom. So many things getting hit, so many things happening. Of course, war with Iran and lots of dissatisfaction, dissent in the United States and in places throughout the globe. The demand of taking and absconding and the powers that seem to be rising with such alacrity that no one can take hold and change the course of events. We are now in change the course of events. And why that happens is because as the outer planets are all moving into fire and air, we are hitting points where action is required. There's still gathering momentum. It's not going to be like fast and furious, although there will be a sense of that. And I think one of the things that can be very exciting for individuals is a sense of, I am gathering a certain amount of energy, finding like-minded people, getting set to create motion, and I am moving with it. Think in terms of when everything just seems to be totally out of one's control, an individual can feel frozen and unable to move forward. And we had been coming off that Neptune in Pisces, Saturn Pisces, that 9-year, now we're in a 1-year. We're in fire horse energy. We are moving. The momentum is high, yang energy. And so this week, as I look at the waxing moon cycle, so that's the gathering energy that came off the new moon. So the aim forward to what it is we want to accomplish, make happen in the coming week and change, and even going forward for months or years ahead. It can be a long-term project. It can be projects already in motion. It can be short-term goals. But that kind of sense of, I can achieve or at least go through the motions of, position myself in movement to make something happen, is absolutely here now. Now, there's a few things that I've noticed in my personal life that I will mark just because, not that I think just because it's happening to me, it must be happening to the wider world, but there is a sense of things that have been kind of on hold or not quite going in a certain direction are starting now to move. So we can compare that to the equinox, where depending on the hemisphere you live in, spring or autumn equinox, we are going through a change of orientation. So the sense of things have been a certain way in weather, nature, and now it's shifting to the other way. Of course, that has a non-logic to it because we are really experiencing climate changes. Nonetheless, there is will, and we can feel that sense of shift. We are moving. We are in motion and flow. And so on a day like Monday, the 23rd, the times I give are Eastern time. So you need to adjust depending where you live. On the 23rd, the moon goes void of course at 1:40 a.m. And then just before dawn, 4:19 a.m., it enters the sign of Gemini. So when the moon is void of course, it's not making any geometric aspects to other heavenly bodies. And basically, the wisdom is there's not the emotional glue to carry something where it needs or wants to go. What I think is interesting about void of course moons is it can change slightly depending on your own personal horoscope. You know, perhaps that void of course moon is charging up something on your personal horoscope. And if connected with another person or something that you're trying to make happen, that can create a synergy that actually does create some motion. But overall, it's best to work on things that are already happening, clear the decks, position yourself for what you want to make happen next. Now, the Eastern time zone, a lot of people may be sleeping or just sort of getting up, and maybe there's not a lot going on in the outer world momentum anyway. But once that moon has moved into Gemini, now we're in very sparkling energy. It's air, it's a mutable sign, so it tends to take information and want to run with it, a bit of shape-shifting quality to it. Oh, I had this idea and that was going in this direction, but let me morph it and work it a little differently now that I've got that information. And because Mercury has recently gone direct, we're still kind of backtracking over where Mercury had seemed to have gone backwards from our perspective. So we may be uncovering stones or working, getting things tied in that hadn't quite been resolved or finished up before when Mercury was retrograde and we didn't have all the information or things weren't happening as we thought they might. So just to briefly refer, as I was saying with my personal life, one thing that has been happening is that people in my sphere, in my world, are moving. They're changing position or doing things that they'd been thinking about for a while and now are bubbling up. Some people are leaving literally the planet because they're done. And yes, people die all the time. That happens. But I think part of what we're seeing with this big shift energy is that people are deciding, am I up for this ride or not? Because it is going to be quite a ride. There is going to be tremendous change that is occurring this year and beyond as we move into what these new realities become. I mean, it's just very apparent that as the world order is moving in these kind of seismic shifts of how things have been done before, it will have a reverberation effect on all of us, no matter where we are, no matter how we do life. And the goal for an individual is, how do I maintain integrity and work in a way that is going to complement my community and maximize where we're at? That's the ideal, rather than saying, I just give up. I'm just gonna hide it up in the mountains somewhere. And some people will choose to do that, of course. So the other thing I'm observing is certain projects that had been on hold or had been talked about for a while, or actually had obtained a certain shape, are now becoming different. People on teams who were working together for quite some time are now moving on, and new people are coming in. Projects that were talked about for a long time are taking fire and taking off. And these are, I'm talking about, in my opinion, positive community cultural projects, things that one might say, uh, is this, or the sky is falling, it hit me on the head, and people are doing these things that are collaborative, community oriented, and creative. Really? And yes, they are, because they're saying we're creating a fresh perspective, a hopeful, positive impact in our small microcosmic ways, because the bigger world is not something we're in direct control of. And yet those microcosms do indeed affect the macrocosm, the greater world. So to me, this is a very positive thrust that I'm starting to observe. And it makes perfect sense, where people are coming off feeling years of out of control, post pandemic, different ways of learning, AI, feeling alienated, feeling disenfranchised. And they're just moving into the fire and air and saying, okay, well, let's just make our new reality. And it's kind of cool. Okay. So on Tuesday, the 24th, from 9:07 a.m. until 6:37 p.m., we have this really nice window where the connections and ways that people are coming together, it's in this sort of sweet spot. If you've been meaning to reach out to somebody, if you've been not able to have that meeting, if Mercury retrograde just seemed to have everything just not going where you needed it to, Tuesday, everything starts to fall into place in a way that feels very electric, very connective, and fun. It can have this lovely sort of curious, uh, almost childlike wonder of, yeah, and this happened, and let's do this. And The excitement is quite contagious. The moon is void, of course, as at 6:37 p.m. Then conversations can get more scattered. Doesn't mean they still aren't fun, but the actual concrete stuff would have happened before that. And then the next day on the 25th, it enters the sign of Cancer at 6:33 a.m. Now, this day has a texture to it that's very, very grounded. Doesn't necessarily mean it's easy, but it actually is very grounded for I am putting my stake here, I am building on this idea, I am forging that idea, and you can see how it all comes together, not quite magically, but with this serendipity of, oh, I've got this. It's almost like that old story, Stone Soup, where the the stranger comes into town and is hungry and decides it's time to eat and says to a person meets, oh, do you have a pot? Oh, do you have water? And so then he's creating this thing on a fire, and all the people in the town bring different things. Oh, a potato, a carrot. This would be better with a little rosemary. And so the stranger is able to get the whole community together to share their sparse things and then have a feast. And that's what Wednesday feels very much like, this let's bring this and let's bring that, and let's see how together we have a greater force and energy than we would have just individually in our little homes or offices by ourselves. Very dynamic energy. The other thing it determines on Wednesday is you may decide or find out, oh, I thought that person was going to be supportive, or I thought I could have relied on this, or I was going to use this tool, but it's not working. And instead of getting hung up on it, just modify, move on, and you will become stronger. Thursday has very clean energy with the same kind of ability to focus in a way that's very liberating. Work from the heart. Work in a way that even if you're feeling a little blocked or not quite knowing how to pull something together, come from an idea of, if I have this intention, this belief, this hope, this desire, this this promise, I will find, I will attract, I will bring in the support and ideas, then I need to truly get it off the ground, because I don't know what they are. I need a inspiration, but I know, I believe, I trust in the rightness of bringing it forth. It's not dissimilar energetically these days, Wednesday, Thursday, and into the evening, Thursday evening, wee hours, Friday morning. It's not dissimilar to when someone actually gives birth. And there's all this tied up, all this hope, wonder, expectation, desired in a desired birth, a wanted birth, and this sense of promise. But there's this unknown, because the mother doesn't really know who she's bringing in, but she's bringing it in with love. So the moon goes void, of course, at 7:40 a.m. on Friday, the 27th. And then it enters the sign of Leo, 10:10 a.m. This is a really jazzy, lovely weekend. It just has, the Leo moon wants to love and be loved. It's the divine child energy. It's fire. It's creative. It's, yes, romance can certainly be a part of it, but it might be theater. It could be glamour. It can be play. It can be games, things that have to do with creative expectations. And when we approach this, this desire to crackle, share, connect, when we approach it with a sense of giving and a feel that we are open to the reciprocity of feeling deserved and giving those who deserve the gift of love, creativity, joy, this becomes a very dynamic weekend. One thing to keep in mind, especially important on Friday, is that we might very well encounter power dynamics. What happens when the moon is in Leo at this point in time? Pluto is in the sign of Aquarius. Sooner or later, that Leo moon is going to be in opposition to Pluto. And when that occurs, I mean, for some of us, it can feel very familiar. If you have Pluto strong in your horoscope, uh, if you have a lot of Scorpio energy, you might be very used to the dynamic of needing to tease through, work through some kind of power play. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. What it does is it brings into play a sense of, how do I confront something that may not feel that comfortable to me? It may be, I mean, for some of us, it may bring up something that blocks us, that makes us unable to move forward. It may feel like shadow energy, something, I don't like this about this person, or I don't like this about myself. It may bring up something that really feels very confrontational, or makes us very angry, or we feel very trapped or manipulated. What's valuable, if any of these feelings come up, is to work on stepping back a little and asking yourself, what is really happening here? Am I getting triggered? Is this like something old I'm feeling? Or is this a story that I have to look at with some degree of objectivity in order to figure out how to, yes, solve the mystery, get to the other side of it? And it's a transit. As I said, for some of us, we may actually be born with these kind of dynamics that we've spent a lot of time learning about and working the dynamics of. And for others, it may be like, wow, what's going on here? This is a very strange experience. But it's important to view it in ways that give you a sense of, how can I analyze this in a way where I'm not feeling as though I'm sucked into something that I can't quite understand, or I don't feel objective or aware enough to not get pulled into something. And it's a fast moving transit. It might be might be a discussion, it might be a power play, it might be a longer transit for you if Pluto is actually hanging out with one of your personal planets by transit now. So if that's the case, when the moon, as she moves through the sky, is in direct conversation with Pluto, you may encounter some sort of emotional or personal experience that really feels as though you're working that very directly on that day. Overall, though, this looks like a wonderful evening to, as I said earlier, play, um, enjoy cultural things, creativity, and romance dance, all those things that Leo's energy just loves to enjoy. The 28th, very dynamic day, again, for creativity, action, getting things done. The thing about Leo is, yes, it's it can be dramatic, it can be dynamic, it can like make everything bigger or more colorful or more, but it's also a fixed sign. It's really wonderful energy for getting things done. So when you know where the moon moves through your personal horoscope, if you know the house that Leo is in, it can show you, oh, okay, this is a great weekend for really putting energy and focus in that particular area of life. On Sunday, the 29th, the moon from, well, it's actually, yeah, we can have a little bit of drama or unexpected things that occur towards mid-afternoon. It doesn't have to be a major upset, but it can be something very unexpected. So you want to pay attention and be alert to what's going on around you then. The moon goes void, of course, at 1:28 p.m., and then it enters Virgo at 3:33 p.m. Great later afternoon, evening to kind of hunker down, recharge, get things in order so that you can move into the next week with purpose and grace. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends, and if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.